Now, as advertised earlier, we are indeed going to be joined now on line number one by the man who is in line to be the next Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador and the leader of the PC party, Frank Coleman. Good morning, Mr. Coleman. You're on the air.
Hi, Paddy.
How are you this morning? I'm fine, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, of course, it's no revelation to you that your family and your own participation in the anti-abortion or the pro-life march, as some will refer to it, has stirred quite the controversy in this province. The number one concern, I won't talk about your personal beliefs, sir, because I believe they're yours and should not be judged on any other basis about how they may affect your decision-making when in office. People would like you to clarify how you can make a clear distinction between such a staunch personal belief and to say that it will not affect or guide any decision you make in office. Can you speak to that for us, sir?
Yes, Paddy. Look, I last Thursday when I did an interview after Bill had retired from the race, it was a question that came at the very end of a long series of interviews, and I got asked, had I participated in a pro-life walk in Corner Brook over the years, and my answer was yes. And the other question was I intending to participate on Good Friday, and this was Thursday, and I said I couldn't because I was out in central Newfoundland.
But you would have otherwise?
Yes, I would have, yeah.
Okay.
So look, it is obviously something that I've participated in over the years. It's something that I believed in, and it is a personal view that my family and I share. And it was a very peaceful walk to just express that that view. That was it. As I move into this role as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of the province, fair game. I understand that people are concerned, and what I think I said on Good Friday, and I'm trying to recall the exact words, but was that, look, I have no intention of imposing my personal views on people. I have no intention of judging people. I have no intention of abrogating anybody's free will to choose as they decide to choose. That was not my intent. That was not my purpose in going into politics. I'm here to, what I believe is, run the province.
Mr. Coleman, pardon me, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to say, and I said last evening, when I did manage to reach a few of the press, that I do not in any way intend to dictate any change in current public funding models or policies that would have any negative impact on what current access to those services are in the province right now. And if you think about it, my answer has been consistent. I am not trying to find ways to exact control over people's choices. That was not my proposition in any way. I've never proposed anything like that. I'm not intending on imposing that view on people. I have a view, and I hope people can respect that view. It's a personal view, and I have absolute respect for the people of the province. So
I think you'd acknowledge that many people view the abortion issue not only contentious and has ramifications politically, societally, economically, everything that you can consider. They think there's a long way between having a pro-life point of view and then the willingness to participate in pro-life or anti-abortion marches. People tell me pro-life is a biased term, so I'll use anti-abortion. In an anti-abortion march, given how some of the people have operated inside that movement, it brings up the question of tolerance for other people's choices they make. Like, from what I read about anti-abortion, there's a very staunch view that has judgments levied at those who have had to struggle with the decision to abort an unborn child. What do you think of people who have made that choice? Because that's where the tolerance and the judgment comes to play. Not that you can directly affect public funding or access to abortion necessarily, even though there are mechanisms. But what do you think of people who have had to make that decision in their life? Because that speaks to the tolerance that the leader of the province would have for those.
Look, I absolutely am empathetic with and understand that people make choices in their lives for all kinds of reasons. I don't know what those reasons are. I can only imagine what they may be, and you know, as I said, Patty, I'm not there to judge anybody. I am the least capable of judging anybody. You know, like that is not my role. I wasn't ever given any crown to make judgment on the choices that people have made in their lives. That is not my intent. So look, you know, am I empathetic with people who have had to make decisions in their lives? You know, yes, absolutely. I understand that, you know, I don't sit in judgment of anybody and won't.
When it comes to once again, how we judge people with alternative lifestyles or make very difficult choices like that, people will equate that choice that you've made based on anti-abortion with the tolerance issues. Once again, whether it be social services, marijuana usage, the policing of gay marriage, all of those things where we've had societal debates that have led to legislation. Can you speak to any of those? Do you think that's a legitimate road we now have to go down, Mr. Coleman?
I don't think so. I think that look, I have respect of the rule of law, whatever that rule of law is regarding whatever social issue you're speaking of. I said that in my statement on Friday. I said, look, I respect the rule of law, and I'm prepared to obey it. And I understand that people have choices to make, and I respect those choices. And I'm not about, under any circumstances, Patty, to exercise any influence over choices people make. Look, I run a business, and I have people that work for us in all parts, all walks of life, men and women, and young men and women. And, because they don't share a view that I have, I don't exercise any influence over that individual. I mean, we hire and respect people of all faiths. We respect people with disabilities. We respect people, and we are, as a company, probably the largest supporter of supported employment initiatives in the province. So, we are very embracing of the diversity that exists in our society, and I understand that.
Well,
I get that. But it is important that we be tolerant of people with private views, and it's interesting, because I have a view on this issue, it does not mean that is some sort of a weakness. In fact, I would think it would be refreshing that somebody would stand up and say, look, this is what I believe in, but it's not going to affect how I'm going to do my job.
I personally can only speak for myself. I think people's personal beliefs should be left to different conversations beyond politics, and I know you do understand how this has made it into the public sphere, and we'll get through it as respectfully as possible to you and others who share similar beliefs. Last question on this issue, sir, and then we'll move on to some policy matters facing the people. When you protest in these anti-abortion marches, is that not in fact calling for policy change, legislative change to how the governments fund and access to abortion?
Well, Patty, this is as far away from a protest as anything I could imagine. It probably is more like a parade of people who have similar views and who are walking to sort of indicate that there may be an alternative. And I would not call it a protest. I mean, we're not out beating our chests and beating things up.
Well, let's just call it a march or a rally. Yeah. Does that not, in fact, mean that you are putting forward your opinion that would hope to change policy and legislation?
No, I don't believe so. No, I think it's an awareness. It is a sense of standing up for what an individual believes in and showing people that there may be an alternative. It is simply that.
And I'll respect that. I accept that answer.
We can't affect the law. The law isn't determined in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
No, but of course, it's the access. Law. It's the funding issue that I think people would be wary of. And I'll accept your answers based on your personal beliefs, sir.
What?
I'll accept your answers on your personal belief, and like every other leader of any other party, we'll keep a close eye on how anything in their background affects public policy and the debate surrounding it. So I think, and that is fair, and I completely accept it. Would you like to move on to another issue, sir?
Sure.
When it comes to, we're speaking of choice, when it comes to the people's want to make a choice of the party and the people inside that party who will represent us at the seat of government, as an unelected man, haven't had to face even your own delegates inside your party to attain the post of premier. Now a by-election is the next thing on people's radar. Do you think that the by-election will be sooner than later? Outside of the general campaigning of meeting people in 48 districts, do you think it's mandatory to get to that by-election immediately so we can indeed have some say in what is an elected official eventually being premier?
Look, Patty, I said when I started this, and I was, I think, asked maybe by David Cochran that question, and I think I answered by saying, look, if I was selected as the premier of the province in July, that I would seek a seat in Humber East, which Premier Marshall had indicated that he would vacate. And it is my home district, and I certainly would love to represent the people of that district. And that was the game plan, and still is. I mean, I have yet to hear from the party executive as to what the plan is after Bill has withdrawn from the race. But I assume that between now and July, I'll be getting into the districts, meeting all the people of the party, trying to really continue to listen to not only the members of the PC party, but I've had great opportunities in places like Bonavista and Clarenville and Musgrave Harbour and all these places and more, where I've sat down with people who of both political stripes and elected officials within those towns, and had a chance to really find out what the issues are at a very grassroots level. I intend to keep doing that, and once this convention, which I understand is still going on, is over, and I have been selected as the premier of the province, I absolutely will seek a seat in the House as early as is practicable for me and the district I represent and Premier Marshall.
Mr. Coleman, do you think for the political fortunes of the party and for yourself, do you think that there's any consideration being given to reopening nominations so you can fight a challenge and have potentially dissenting views inside the PC party, reflective of the new mandate that is put forward by Premier Marshall? We're listening, and that all voices can be heard and all consideration given to different sides of the coin. Do you think there's political healthy approach to reopening the nominations to see you challenged before you assume such a lofty role, the biggest role in the government?
Look, I entered the race. I entered the race with two other candidates. One was disqualified, and the other withdrew. For whatever reasons, he withdrew, and I'm going to take my cue from the party executive.
I know it's not if you're doing that. The other two gentlemen aren't in the race any further. But do you think, for your own political credibility and to speak, to reflect like you're listening to the people of the province, that an open nomination where there is a challenge inside your own party, especially when we don't know when a by-election would be, do you think that's to your own political benefit to have gone down that road and potentially re-examine going down that road again?
Look, Patty, here's a really important thing to remember. I mean, we're going to be in a big fight, come 2015, with the Liberals. And, we want to get ready for that, and I think the party wants to get ready for it. And then, I'm game on and eager to get at, certainly learning the ropes and certainly getting ready for that election and trying to convince the people of the province. I don't know that I want to turn around and resurrect this leadership contest and reopen it all over again. A, time is short, and B, I want to get ready for this for the bigger fight.
And I was just curious of your own personal position on that, because it is someone that attacks your hearing, and so I'm just trying to pose questions that are important to the people. Mr. Coleman, given that I think it's to your own benefit that people get to know who you are a little bit more, and it doesn't always have to be based on personal beliefs. There's so many important issues and policies, whether it be your role on the board of the Emera subsidiary in this province, other things that you think about the future of the province. Can we interest you in coming in? I never do this on this program because I've never seen great opportunities for it. Do you think we can convince you late this week to join us here in the studio, take some calls from people in the province? I'll have some questions for you, and we'll get to know Frank Coleman. We'll talk about the future and where you stand on a variety of matters.
Look, absolutely that I've committed to coming on the Open Line show. I just don't know when my communications individual is, and I'm in Toronto right now taking this call, by the way. So
yeah, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, so I'd absolutely be guided by certainly her scheduling something with you, and I'd be really happy to do it.
Well, I look forward to it. I will indeed reach out to your representative, and hopefully we can find a convenient time for your schedule, hers, and everyone else, because I think the people would really like to hear more from you, and beyond some of the issues that have dogged you in recent days, and rightfully so, and I know you understand that. So we'll get into some other matters, and I genuinely appreciate your time this morning. Anything else in summary, Mr. Coleman?
No, that's great, Patty. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate your time.
All right.
All the best. Bye-bye. Frank Coleman joining us from Toronto. You heard what we had a time to dig into today. I'm by no means not going to go down the other roads and policies and decision-making processes that are in front of Mr. Coleman. You've heard the invitation. I will follow up with his team and try and organize this through appropriate avenues, but I would like to have Mr. Coleman here in the studio, and when and if that happens, and we get closer to the general campaign, not only will we offer that opportunity to leaders of the opposition parties, but we will do our best once again here at VOCM News to have a debate or a series of debates where we get to the bottom line, we get some answers to these all-important questions, we get to know a bit more about all the candidates, the parties, where they stand, where they plan on taking us, because that's ultimately all that really counts. We're taking a break and then we're coming back.